radio for the masses.
Headline edition, July 8, 1947. The Army Air Forces has announced that a flying disc has been found and is now in the possession of the Army.
If the game is rigged, change the game. Game changer.
I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
This is Fade to Black with your host, Jimmy Church, on the Game Changer Radio Network.
All right. Good evening. How you doing? Fade to Black. Yeah. Today's Wednesday, August 27th, 2025. Let's do this, man. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Very excited about the show tonight, except my... what the heck is going on? Okay, now is this... No, it's not. Oh, man, I am going to have to scroll. I have to do it like this. My teleprompter's not working. Wow. Okay, we're going to go old school. We're going to go old school on this, man. Oh, how good is my memory? This week on Fade to Black, Monday night, we had John B. Alexander with us, government UFO secrecy. Last night, Amy Westmoreland was here, manifesting. What a great conversation last night. Tonight, Darryl Anka is with us, and we are going to be talking metaphysical all night, which means we're going to do whatever we want to do. I do have 6 or 7 major events coming up, all of them in 2026, except for next month. Daryl and I will be down in San Diego for the Transcendence Conference. We're going to be talking about that too as well. And that is September 27th. Moderators, if you can, get the links up for Susan Ross, and let's make that happen. I have to move something over here. Yeah, this is when I don't have automation rolling, suddenly my world just comes crushing to a complete halt. Yeah, and it's live. Yeah, you get to witness this. Yeah, if you could get everything up and get the promo code up there too as well. Yeah, that would be great. What movie was that? Office Space. Yeah. If you could come in this Saturday, that would be great. If you can come in Sunday. I do have 6 major events coming up. The Conscious Life Expo. That is February 20th through the 23rd. After that, I've got the Contact Modalities Expo, May 1st through the 3rd in Delavan, Wisconsin at Delavan Lake. I come back from that for Contact in the Desert, May 28th through June 1st, 2026. Tickets on sale this Thanksgiving Day. I've also got 2 trips to Peru next year as well. One for the summer solstice, and the second one is Peru and Easter Island. And then after that, I go over to Scotland for the Monty Python tour of Scotland, one of the greatest films ever made, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. We will be going to all of the location shots and the castles that were used in the movie. We're also going to go to the Bridge of Death. So I'll see everybody for that, for the Monty Python tour of Scotland. All right, where am I at now? Now that I don't have the ability to do everything that I normally do, right? So let me try this. All right, I'm just going to wing it. Daryl is a writer. He's a director. His company is called Zia Films. I hope I've got that right. Daryl, don't come in here and throw me around. But one of my favorite films, and this is just off of the cuff, Alienated, and it is just a sensational film. If you ever get a chance, go and check that out as well. And he has been channeling Bashar. I'm not going to say 4 decades, but I might. And I'm going to say, welcome back, Daryl. Has it been 4 decades yet?
It has been over 40 years, yes.
Yeah, how nuts is that?
Oh, yeah.
I know. Time flies when you're channeling.
Right. That reminds me of one of going back to Bashar. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on Bashar tonight, but one of the things that I stole from Bashar, was there was this little clip years and years and years ago, and it was like Bashar on time travel. That was right. And I listened to that, and I stole a bunch of stuff. I did. I acted like it was my own. And then I came to you probably 12 years ago or so, and I said, man, I got to confess about this stuff I stole from you. And you were like, yeah, that's all right. I said, it was just so complex, and I've never heard that version of it. And those points about time travel. But that's not what was important. What was important was I got rid of the guilt. Right? I got rid of the guilt that I carried with me. But
the cosmic cops are still on their way, Jimmy.
Yeah, I know. They're going to come. I'll be cleansed on so many things except for that. But you just brought up time, and it seems that why is it that as you get older in life, time is more important, and you're okay talking about it? When we're younger, it's not there, it's not present. But as you get wiser, right, and your knowledge, time starts to become something that is a concern, because it seems to be moving faster, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, because you're focused on stuff when you're older that gives you a different relationship to time. You're focused in a different way than you are as a child. You're not really concerned so much about it, because living in the moment as a child, you're not really paying attention. You're not experiencing the passage of time in the same way. But as an adult, you have to live in the moment to sort of experience it the way a child does. But a lot of adults don't necessarily live in the moment. But when they focus on something that's important to them in life, then their focus is going that way, their attention's going that way. Time becomes something that just sort of happens and passes by in the background. And before you know it, you look up, and several days, weeks, months, years have gone by. But also, I think it becomes our concern, because on an intuitive level, at least, if not a completely conscious level, you understand that you have a certain limit to your life path, and you don't have as much time left to be physical. So we start focusing on it, I think, because in a sense, we're running out of it.
In recognizing that, I have made an absolute life change, that every minute of every day, I'm smiling.
Yeah. Why not?
I'm happy. Yes. Yeah. I don't have time to be pissed off. I could care less. Yeah. I don't have time for it. I don't care about it. Being happy and just, you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. There is no extra time to spend on things that aren't about what's really true for you and what kind of a life you want to live. So knowing that your time is limited when you're an adult, you start making choices for how to spend that time in a way that is more in alignment with who you prefer to be. And you just don't have time for extraneous stuff.
It's amazing how easy I find it that I can cut somebody out of my life so easily now. Dude, I've got a sharpened axe. You know what I mean? It's just like I can cut those cords so easily now. And I wasn't like that when I was younger. Now I just don't. Yeah. No, man, I don't have time for it. I want to smile.
Yeah. Well, I mean, kind of as Bashar says, it's like, even after you have gone through the process of letting go of any particular negative or fear-based beliefs, you continue the process by then letting go of the things that are simply no longer relevant for who you prefer to be. And it doesn't mean that, you're cold about it. You just recognize at a certain point when certain things and situations and relationships are simply not vibrationally compatible with how you want to spend the rest of your life. And so you make choices and make decisions. You're going to meet everyone back in spirit anyway. So,
Right.
it doesn't really ultimately matter. They're not completely cut out at all of your life as it continues on in spirit. But, while you're physical, you can make choices that are representative of what you really prefer to focus on. And sometimes that may require that a relationship changes in a certain way to allow you to do that. And that's perfectly fine as long as you are, not being a jerk about it.
Yeah, true. We have known each other for a long time, and we've had many conversations. And what I enjoy about that is you leave the first impression zone, right, and get all of that stuff out of the way. But now you're free to ask more freedom of thought questions.
Sure.
Because it's out of trust, right?
Yeah.
All right. So what do I ask Darryl Anka that I have never? I mean, where do we go? But I thought about something. I ask most of my guests this, and it doesn't matter what their background is. It simply doesn't matter because everybody has an opinion.
Sure.
But I've never asked you this question.
Okay.
Is consciousness of the physical or non-physical?
Non-physical.
Why?
Well, let's see. It's a very interesting synchronicity. This must have been somebody telling me we were going to talk about this, because I was actually thinking about this about 2 hours ago. And it just kind of came into my head out of the blue. So
that's about when I thought I had my thoughts that I just relayed to you.
Okay. So synchronistically, I knew this was coming up. Well, the idea is, Einstein said energy equals matter equals energy. And the idea is that matter is just another form of energy, and energy is another form of matter. And if there is consciousness being expressed through matter, there has to be also consciousness expressed through energy. And since our soul is energy, our physical self is expressed as matter, I don't see any reason why consciousness can't express itself in both conditions, in both states of being. But in terms of what I understand the physical world to be as a projection of consciousness from what Bashar has described, in a sense, it's the old phrase, as above, so below. The as above comes first. So below is a secondary expression. Physical matter is a crystallization of energy, which is, in a sense, the original state of existence. Everything happens in the energy form, and then some of it materializes and transforms into the material form as well. So, linearly speaking, yes, I think that consciousness is from the energy level, and it has the capacity to materialize itself, express itself through the material version of energy. And so, I just look at it that way. But of course, from the higher level, it all exists at the same time. So that's really a linear question, which came first, and I'm giving you a linear answer.
Well, and what is interesting about that, it's an interesting take, is there going to be a point, if that is the case, is there going to be a point where science will eventually catch up to consciousness and be able to test it and measure it and figure it out if it is indeed going back to Einstein's basic principles?
I think there probably will be some methodology that will happen, but I also think that what is actually considered a scientific approach itself will change. And therefore, they'll find new ways of describing things that will fit into the scientific modality as it transforms to be able to accept other concepts. Because look at what happened between Newton and then Einstein. We had to come up with new ways of even expressing something to still consider it to be science. because if we were still doing things the way that Newton understood them, we had no language for what Einstein finally discovered until we created language for it. So science evolves as well by expanding its understanding, but it also has to expand what it considers its terminology to be and how it describes things. So I do think science will be able to do that kind of measurement in the future, but I think they will also probably have to change what they understand about how to measure things like that.
If we take the linear part out and we then go to the chicken or the egg, what did come first?
Nothing. Neither came first. They both coexist simultaneously.
But something, okay, but something.
Cause and effect is a linear experience. It's just the way it expresses itself in physical linear reality. Everything exists simultaneously. Everything is its own concept. We make those connections from physical reality in a way that then gets laid out in our understanding of before, now, and after.
Sure.
But the concepts all exist simultaneously.
I don't want to get caught in the kung fu moment that David Carradine always had, right? To go up, you must first go down, right? You know, and you get into all these things. And so, okay, but how is it possible for things to have been created at the same time? I'm talking about the physical and the non-physical of consciousness.
Okay. Let's go with an analogy that Bashar often uses.
But is it magic? Is it magic? Is it spiritual?
And that's film strip. Look at a film strip.
Okay.
You have all the frames on the film strip all existing at the same time. But when you run them through the projector, you only see them one at a time, and you see them in a certain sequence. That doesn't mean all the frames don't exist at the same time. The projectionist can stretch out the film strip and see all the frames at once from that perspective. But from the person sitting in the movie theater looking at the screen, they're only seeing one frame at a time, experiencing the movie linearly. The projectionist can look at any frame in any order that they want, because all the frames are there at the same time. That's a simplistic analogy, but that's what I'm describing.
So consciousness, okay. But if we go back, let's go back infinitely backwards. Let's go backwards infinitely. If we go back and the first versions of consciousness are swimming around like little tadpoles going, oh man, there's a particle. Let's dive in and bring it to life. Well, the experiences would have to have already been there in consciousness to make that sentient thought.
Yeah.
So it would seem to me that consciousness was first.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. But you're looking at it linearly. So yes, from our linear perspective, consciousness is first. That's why I said I'm answering you linearly. So, but the idea is that everything exists at the same time. Because when you're looking at it from the higher perspective, there's no division anymore. All that is all that can possibly be. And all of the things that it is all have to exist all at once for it to be what it is.
Science and physics today is getting more and more comfortable with the idea that the past, the present, and the future are all happening at the same time.
Exactly.
I love that discussion, but man, it makes my brain hurt.
Yeah, it takes a while to wrap your mind around higher dimensional perspectives. And, you know, it's part of our growth. It's part of our evolution to be able to expand our bandwidth, so to speak, so
Right.
that we can incorporate more of the way that existence is actually structured. But it's not like we have to understand it all. We just have to understand what's relevant for our life path that moves us forward, that lets us learn the lessons for our soul's growth. So, you know, we can take it so far. We don't really have to take it much farther than whatever level of that understanding helps us move forward and is relevant for our lives.
Now, let's accept that. Okay, let's accept that.
Okay.
Will there be a point where we could, I'm going to say in real time, because we have the now, that's it, right? Okay.
Now. Yes,
The
now.
past went that way and the future, right? Okay. All right. I love that way to look, because you can never quite, but will we reach a point where, while being in the now and in the moment, where we can actually experience the past and actually experience the future in real time?
There are two versions of an answer I can give you. First of all, let's just get this out of the way. Obviously, if you go back into spirit, yes, you can experience that simultaneously, because spirit is the perspective of the projectionist. You can see it all. So that's a given. In physical reality, there are moments that people do experience that can be representative of that. Things like deja vu can be representative of our mind, our consciousness suddenly incorporating more than one reality, whether it be a reality of parallelness or whether it be a different reality we would consider another time. There can be those overlaps. There can be those, let's just say, bleed throughs or glitches, where for some reason our senses can actually pick up on things like that. That can be a representation of psychic functioning and deja vu and other kinds of phenomena that are seemingly out of sync with what we consider normal linear reality to be. So those could be examples of when we all of a sudden expand our bandwidth enough to start incorporating different levels of reality into something that sort of makes sense and doesn't make sense in terms of how we experience our physical reality. Because when people have deja vu, it's like, oh, that's so strange. I know what's about to happen because I feel like it's happened before. Well, that's exactly the idea of, okay, I know what's about to happen. So in a sense, you're seeing the future, but you're also giving the explanation that the only reason you know that is because it feels like it's already happened. So you feel like it's from the past. So you're converging those two future pasts into the now and having this experience we call deja vu.
How do we I talk about deja vu all the time, and I don't want to have this comment be lengthy. I want it to be a question. But the reason why I find it so fascinating is because I've had it constantly since I was a little kid. I love it. I stop. I enjoy the moment.
Right.
I've never been able to explain it. And I don't know if I really care about an explanation, but I enjoy it. But that is a mystery. That for me, how do we explain deja vu
in terms of why it happens?
Well, and how it happens.
Well,
Because
I just explained how it happens. I just explained how it happens mechanically. Your bandwidth, your sensory bandwidth expands back to something more like the soul perspective. That's what I'm saying. Remember, you're in the soul. You are your soul. Physical reality is within the soul. It's not a separate place.
But who is choosing to reveal that deja vu at that moment?
It could be part of what you planned on your soul path to keep you aligned in a certain way, to keep you aware that there's more than you may think just physically. It could be something that your spirit guides are doing, helping you to experience something that gives you a different kind of perspective or a momentum in your life. It could be activated by both of you. So it doesn't really matter how it's triggered. The point is, why is it triggered? And from my perspective, from my experience, it gets triggered because it's an indication that you are growing, you are evolving, or you are keeping yourself on track by giving yourself a number of what most people would call supernatural experiences to constantly remind you this physical reality is not all there is. It keeps you going and it keeps you aligned with that understanding that you're more than just this physical experience. That's what a lot of synchronicity is about. That's what deja vu can be about. it tells you there's something more beyond what your physical senses are normally picking up on. You expand your senses at that moment to pick up on something bigger. You become closer to your soul self and see a little bit from your soul's perspective, so that you can remind yourself you are more than just this physical person.
When I was a kid, I'm going to say I was probably 8, 9 years old. I'm going through a deja vu, and I went up to my teacher, Mrs. Lafferty. It was that was her name, Mrs. Lafferty, 4th grade. And I went up to her and said, on All That I Love, Daryl, somebody's read my book. Just like that. She goes, what are you talking about? I said, I know what everybody's about to say.
Yeah.
And she goes, what are you talking about? She goes, oh, it's deja vu. I'm like, what? But that was my comment, right? As an innocent little kid, somebody has read my book. But it was just, I've never really let that go. Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. That's like saying I've got a glimpse ahead on my life path.
I didn't like it. I didn't dig it.
But you like it now.
Yeah, I like it now. No, somebody's read my book.
Yeah.
Somebody knows what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Because there is always somebody that knows what's about to happen, maybe on another level, but there is always somebody probably in your spirit team that knows exactly what's about to happen, because all they're doing is watching what you've laid out for yourself on your life blueprint.
How do we, when we talk about deja vu and synchronicities, you know, when I'm introducing you at a conference, which are always great, but we've got, 1,000 people in front of us. They get it, right? They get it. We're not selling anything at that point, right? They're there. No. They get it and they understand. But so many on this planet don't get it and dismiss deja vus and dismiss synchronicities.
Yeah, well, that's okay.
What's going to be the light switch when suddenly everybody goes, wow, consciousness is key?
Well, that's hard to say. There could be any number of triggers if it is even part of their life path to figure that out. It may not be. But everyone will set up some situation for themselves on their life path. If it's going to get triggered, they'll set that up ahead of time so that they will arrive at that trigger point. And it could be any number of things. It could be hearing somebody quote a line. It could be seeing a UFO. It could be looking at the night sky. It could be anything that might trigger them to understand a certain concept. Who knows?
But it seems that, yes, you're right. And here's the crazy part about that, Daryl. Everything that you and I are talking about right now has been talked about for thousands of years.
Yes.
Just crack open the Bible. Yes. And God said, right? Angels from the heavens, miracle, all of these things that we talk about today that get dismissed are accepted when you put religion into the picture and God said and God spoke. Suddenly that's okay.
Yeah, but I also do think that more and more and more people are understanding, at least to some degree, the more spiritual approach that I think now we're discussing. I think that they're starting to understand at least a little bit more that you can have a direct relationship with all that is, with eternity, with the universe, with God, goddess, whatever. And so I think that more people are starting to understand that this is just another way of looking at existence that's a little bit more personal, rather than always having to have a go-between explain it to you from their perspective, which is kind of more what religions are about. So it's fine if religion works for you. That's fine. It's a permission slip like anything else. I personally would prefer to have a more direct understanding of how existence works. And I'm not saying I'm just coming from a scientific point of view. I'm coming from a spiritual point of view. And it's what you said earlier. I do think that in many ways, a lot of cutting edge physics and a lot of metaphysics is really saying the same thing from two different perspectives. And I know a lot of scientists balk at that, but I do believe it will become more obvious in the future that quantum physics and metaphysics are tied at the hip.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Bashar's going to make it so. Here's the, is there, how do I don't want to piss anybody off. Is there,
You don't want to piss anybody.
yeah. Is there a
too
pyramid?
late, Jimmy.
I know. Is there a pyramid structure to consciousness? Is there somebody calling the shots? Is there a corporate ladder and then a CEO of consciousness?
I would not phrase it in that hierarchical way. Obviously, there are different levels in consciousness, different levels of awareness. And obviously, if we're talking about, what Bashar calls all that is, which is another way of saying God, goddess, whatever, you can certainly position that at the apex if you want to think hierarchically, because it is all that is, has all awareness, all existence, all experience. And if you want to say that's the top of the pyramid, then you can. I don't think all that is necessarily sees itself that way, because it is everything, and everything is a part of it. So I would say it kind of probably sees itself more as a sphere than a pyramid, because it is, no matter what direction it looks, it sees itself. No matter what direction it looks, there's a part of it that is doing something that it experiences as another reflection of itself. So I would call it more of a sphere than I would a pyramid.
I've always considered there has to be a shot caller of consciousness.
No.
That's the way I look at it.
You're the shot caller. You're the shot caller of your experience.
But when
that's the whole point.
When I get to the spiritual plane, there's more experience there.
Oh, yes. There is more experience, but you're looking at someone that's more like a mentor. They're not calling the shots for you. They're capable of telling you more about what's available to you and what do you want to do. We're giving you more options because here's our experience. This is possible, and now you know that. It's still left up to you to call the shots with your soul's free will about what it is you want to experience. So yes, of course, there are different levels of being that are more experienced by far, but they're not calling the shots. In fact, a being that is truly wise will never try to call the shots for you, because they know you have your own life path. They will give you all the information they can. They will give you all the options that they can. You will consult with them. You'll talk to them. You'll commune with them. Ultimately, you have to call the shot about what it is you wish to experience. They'll back you on it, but it's your choice.
So a new planet out there, right, kind of springs to life, and then things happen. Yeah, amino acids build up, and magic happens, and all of that, and suddenly there's a form of life. It seems that somebody has to make the decision and go, okay, all of you conscious soul dudes and dudettes, let's go check out this new planet. Let's go occupy some particles.
Yeah, but that's a suggestion. It's not something that somebody says you have to do. There will be those who will want to volunteer for it because, hey, that looks exciting. Right. It's like somebody saying, hey, let's go to Magic Mountain, and somebody saying, oh, let's go to Disneyland. Well, what do you want to do? Okay, I want to go to Disneyland. Okay, I want to go to Magic Mountain. So different souls go in different directions to have different experiences when something is available for them to do that.
And not to rag on Richard Dawkins, because he's too fun to rag on, but we're not going to do that. We're not going to do that right now. Okay. But when we get into the reductionist, materialist, determined, atheist world of skeptics, truly fun people, when you get into that world, they will say that life just happened and it was an accident, and it was just DNA and RNA, and it was just a miracle of lightning hitting a crystal.
Yeah,
and
I know. I know.
Yeah, and I think of the odds. I don't know what the number is on that, but the odds of that happening are to the extreme. There has to be some guidance behind that type of creation and movement.
There definitely can be, but it's not really something that, it doesn't really work to come at it from the position of odds, because in an infinite universe, everything will happen at least once, so, if not more than once. So you can't really come at it from an odds perspective, because the odds are the same for anything in an infinite universe. It can happen. It will happen. But the idea really is that, a completely materialistic reductionist perspective is actually self-canceling, because to take the materialist reductionist perspective to its extreme, I'm not saying every reductionist does that, but many of them do. And they're basically saying, well, even your own thoughts are just random occurrences of chemistry in your brain. Now, if that's the case, then that means your thoughts have no value and no meaning, including the thought that your consciousness is just a product of random chemistry in your brain. So we don't really need to listen to anyone who's coming from that perspective, because they've just admitted that their opinions have absolutely no value, since it's just a random expression of chemistry in the brain.
I'm going to steal that. That's stolen. Daryl, that's done. That's stolen.
Okay. All right. It's yours.
I'm going to steal that.
I grant it to you.
Well, because it has to be that way. And when they go and make these types of comments, I don't think that they actually realize when they go, oh, free will is just math. There is no free will. It was just going to happen anyway. Well, so that means the words coming out of your mouth, you didn't decide to do that is math making those decisions.
I mean, if that were really true, how would we ever understand anything anybody ever said? Because it would make no sense whatsoever. You could utter a sentence and I wouldn't know what the hell you were talking about if it was totally random. That's what I said. It's a self-canceling argument. Plus, on the other side of it, even if they're correct in terms of their materialistic causation of physical life, that still doesn't cancel out the possibility of spirit in any way, shape, or form. All they're saying is, well, this is how the physical vehicle is created. This is how you create a vessel through which life can express itself. That doesn't in any way, shape, or form erase the possibility that spirit is then expressing itself through that form that was created by lightning strikes and amino acids. So it doesn't really disprove anything to even say that life was created this way,
Is there, staying on the subject, is there a basic, one single fundamental thing that ties all of this together? Is it entanglement?
A lot of science seems to be thinking that entanglement is a fundamental principle or expression that can explain many things that we experience in the physical universe. I do tend to agree with that to an extent. I don't know that they've arrived at a place where they understand certain things that it might explain. I think they're focused in a certain way on it. But I don't necessarily think it's the only thing. I mean, if you want to call an entanglement, can be another expression for synchronicity, since synchronicity basically is saying everything is interconnected, which is another way of saying it's all entangled. So if you want to, take it to that, approach, take it in that direction, then yes, I mean, synchronicity is linear spacetime's way of showing you that everything is connected and everything exists at the same time. It's an orchestration. It's not an accident. So since entanglement is not an accident and synchronicity is an expression of something that's not an accident, then there can be a relationship between those two terms. Sure. And it can describe the structure of existence. Yeah.
Okay, so I mentioned entanglement. For you, is there another fundamental underlying principle that connects everything?
Well, I mean, existence itself is an underlying principle that obviously connects everything. You exist that's a fundamental quality that you have, is you exist. You are. You can't become that which doesn't exist, because your fundamental quality is to be. And from Bashar's perspective, there's actually, by definition, no such thing as non-existence. Non-existence, by definition, doesn't exist. That's its quality, to not exist. So that which exists cannot become that which doesn't exist, because non-existence doesn't exist. So there's nowhere for existence to go.
Is science starting to hold humanity back? Where
some of the ideas, maybe, yeah.
It's gotten so narrow. Instead of spreading out and going wide, it's gotten narrow.
Yeah, yeah, that's why I was commenting on things like cutting edge quantum physics. I think that the people that are involved in cutting edge quantum physics are actually going far beyond and approaching metaphysical concepts and ideas. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you have a principle in quantum mechanics that basically says something to the effect of, things aren't really there until you observe them. Well, that's pretty damn close, in a way, to saying that it's your consciousness that brings it about. So,
yeah, that's their way of saying it without saying consciousness, by the way.
Exactly. Now, I do think they have to start including consciousness in their equations for certain things to make sense. But I think they will get there, I think, because they will have to. And I think also, once we actually have something like open contact with extraterrestrials, we're going to be able to learn a lot from them about these subjects much more quickly, because they will be capable of making themselves available to us, to those that are interested in evolving this and pushing this knowledge forward. So I think we're going to make a lot of rapid progress in the understanding of these concepts after we have open contact, which, as far as Bashar and actually several other psychics independently have said, is probably going to be happening in another couple of years.
Well, you've been saying that. Yeah. What is amazing about that, not you, Bashar, that Bashar's been making these comments about everybody, you and I have seen how many times I'll say Bashar because you're not there. It's Bashar that's there. How many times have Bashar and I watched somebody step up to the microphone and go, okay, man, when? And so Bashar's been addressing this for a while, pretty laser focused on this 2026, 2027 timeline. And then here we are, right? Where this conversation is now happening, not only within our community, but on Capitol Hill. And we've got 3i Atlas, entering this solar system and coming around and all of these. Suddenly it seems that Bashar was right. I'm not saying Bashar's been vetted. I'm saying that we've been talking about this for a long time. Now it's the normies that are talking about this, Daryl.
Right. I know. Yeah. You're having all sorts of, UFO discussions, like you said, in Congress and so on and so forth. This has become, realistic to people. I know that a lot of people aren't necessarily willing to make the leap and say, oh, it's ETs. But they're finally saying, hey, UAPs and UFOs, yes, this is real. We're trying to find out what it is. We have whistleblowers coming out saying what they believe it is because of what they've seen. So, again, this comes back to what I've always said. This is the biggest secret that everyone already knows. And it's just going to finally get to the point where it's like, oh, yeah, they're here. Of course they are,
Going back to science for a second, the closed-mindedness of science. When we look at the ideas, not from our community, just in general, on how space travel and interstellar travel would happen and could happen, science is chained and held back due to the theories and discoveries from the turn of the century, right?
Well,
And
yes,
they're
for the most part, yes. But like I'm saying, there are cutting edge people and there are cutting edge theories that are making their way into the mainstream. There
But
really
here's the
are.
problem. But okay, but this is my point, though, Daryl. Yes, correct. But we can't get enough of the science community to talk and to work with each other on these other alternative ideas. It's
Right.
very strange. Everybody's just so compartmentalized
Of course.
and
Yes.
focused on old theories.
Yes. But that's usually the way it happens anyway. When has any major change ever actually been started by probably any more than one or two people? And it takes a long time for everyone to catch up, and ultimately they finally do. But or the people die out that don't, and then the next generation takes it up, and it's like, oh well, of course it's this way, because the next generation has a better perspective on it and they've grown up with it. So that's the way humanity appears to have evolved over time. And there are certain theories that are more expansive, that are, like I said, making their way into the mainstream, because we are gaining more insights by certain experiments into the way that reality does actually function. And therefore, there are a few more scientists, more and more, I think, every day, that are going, okay, that could be a possibility. At least we're willing to admit that could be a possibility. You've got like people like Miguel Alcubierre, who's come up with the warp drive, and then another article that I saw recently going, yes, we can probably do it even more efficiently than we thought, but we just don't have the technology yet. But on paper, the math completely works. We now know warp drive is possible. Many scientists looking at those equations go, yeah, you're right. You found a way around the obstacles and impediments of the old paradigm, and you have just mathematically demonstrated that warp drive is possible. We're just not there technologically yet. But at least that's a big leap for a lot of scientists to even say, okay, now we know that it's possible to get to the next star in like a week or two instead of, thousands of years. And that means, because of that realization, well, if there's a civilization out there that is even just a few hundred years ahead of us, they may have already figured out the technology to get here. So, when one little discovery is made, it does have a ripple effect into other discoveries, and that accelerates the whole process. Now, for those that are just going to stubbornly refuse to look at those things, well, at some point, like I said, they're either going to be left behind, or there's going to be a shock to the system that's going to make them go, oh gosh, I guess they were right all along. We better get on board. And one of those things could obviously be when open contact occurs publicly. Because if you suddenly are facing a literal extraterrestrial, the first question is, how did you get here? Well, we came by this and we got here in like 2 days from that star system. It's like, okay, I guess we were wrong.
Yeah. Yes.
What are you going to say at that point? It's staring you in the face. So, different people will react in different ways. Some may still stubbornly refuse to believe it, but I don't think that will ultimately be the majority, at least not within a few years after contact, because I think nobody will want to be left behind in terms of the things the ETs have to teach us. So there may be stubborn nations that want to hold on to the way that they've always done things, and they may lag behind, but eventually they're going to realize that if they kind of don't get on board with the rest of humanity, they're going to be left in the Stone Age.
What happens to, and don't pull the kung fu move on me here, okay? What happens to time if a warp drive principle comes into play, we zip out to Alpha Centauri or wherever we go?
Nothing. Not with warp drive. With time dilation, with just normally trying to speed up to the speed of light and getting close, Then you have time dilation because you are attempting to move faster through the fabric of space-time. But warp drive creates a space-time bubble around your ship. You are moving with space-time, or it's moving with you. So there is no time dilation at all. You don't change in the warp bubble. The warp bubble is a movement of space-time itself, and space-time, as every astrophysicist knows, can actually move faster than light. That's the only thing that can, because it's the actual fabric of space-time itself. There is no limit on how fast space-time can move. There is only the limit on how fast things can move in space-time. But space-time can go as fast as it wants. So if you can wrap a bubble of space-time around your ship and isolate it from the dilation effect, you can zip across the universe, in microseconds. It doesn't matter.
And so let's put our Star Trek helmet on for a second. Okay. So you're watching the Enterprise warp, planet to planet, stars at warp, zigzag, warp. And effectively, they could still, you're suggesting that they could return to Earth and time hasn't changed.
Time has not changed because
your dog hasn't died. Your kids.
They're not affected by time by being in a warp bubble.
And I
because
feel
they're
better.
taking space with them.
I feel better.
Yeah.
I was concerned.
No, it could have been a problem. And that was kind of one of the stumbling blocks, because everyone just assumed, well, we would just have to travel faster and faster within the fabric of space-time, and that's going to cause time dilation. And so if you're gone for, 8 years traveling at the speed of light, you come back, go out 4 years, come back 4 years. Everyone on Earth that will have long since died. Could be thousands of years later. So warp bubble cancels that effect.
Same thing with a wormhole?
Yeah, because it is literally a tunnel or a shortcut. You're not affected because, again, it's part of the fabric of space-time. It's like suddenly finding a slide and sliding down it, and getting somewhere else faster, because you're dealing with something that is part of the structure of space-time itself. In fact, I just heard there's a recent theory, I think Neil deGrasse Tyson was talking about it on YouTube or something, where wormholes may literally be the threads of the fabric of space-time. So they could be everywhere and anywhere. And I do believe, from what I have understood and seen, that a lot of UFOs do in fact come through portals and wormholes and dimensional gates. So again, it doesn't affect the experience of time, because it's just using space-time, the structure of space-time in the way it's designed, to get where you need to go without experiencing the time dilation effect.
There was, I'm going to read a piece of this to you because this was absolutely incredible. And this was a press release from yesterday. And it is this. All right. By analyzing the data from the Meerkat International Gigahertz Tiered Extragalactic Exploration Survey, astronomers have discovered a new rotating galaxy filament. The filament is about 5.5 million light years long and connects 14 galaxies together. The finding was reported August 18th on the preprint server Archive. Now, I pull that apart and I look at it, and I don't see filament. I see wormhole.
Could be. A filament may be an indication in the structure of space-time of the existence of wormholes. It could be other things. It could just be the way that galaxies are interconnected and spread out within the universe as well. It could be an energy link of a different type, but it might be a representation, energy link of a wormhole. We don't know that yet.
Yeah, and before we take a break, we're going to do that in a couple of minutes. Again, a question that has been thrown at Bashar many times, but what's the propulsion system for Bashar's craft?
Oh boy. Okay. What they basically do is they understand that location is a variable that describes an object. It's not a place an object exists in as much as it is that the idea of a location exists in an object as part of its energy equation, so to speak. In changing the energy equation of the location, they literally physically change the location of the object instantaneously. It leaves where it was and it takes up residence where they have re-identified its location without actually traveling in between. Now, the interesting thing is, I have always only heard Bashar describe his mode of travel that way until 2 days ago. I happened to be looking at one of the Dolores Cannon books, and it's called Custodians. And on page 224 of that book, under hypnosis, when she is ostensibly talking to an ET through a hypnotized subject, that ET said exactly the same thing. We dial in the vibration of the location and we just appear there. That's the first time I've ever heard any other source say the same thing that Bashar said.
What does that tell you?
It tells me that what he's saying is a real technology.
No, yeah, okay, continue.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, and what it tells me is that, again, see, like Entanglement, I think one of the things Entanglement shows us is, you know, originally Einstein called it, spooky action at a distance.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's spooky action at a distance that Entanglement reveals. I think Entanglement reveals that there's no such thing as distance, that it's an illusion, that everything exists here and now, and those entangled particles that appear to be light years apart are still actually fundamentally right next to each other. And therefore, that's why they're affected instantaneously, regardless of how many light years away one may be from the other. And like that, the idea of vibrationally relocating yourself by changing the locational frequency of an object is another way of saying, look, this object, like a hologram, exists everywhere in the universe potentially all at once. And if I simply shift the vibration of its location, then its appearance will stop being at position A, and its appearance will start being at position B, where I have now re-identified it because it potentially existed there to begin with, because everything exists everywhere all at once.
Yeah, and what supports that, and I just love that. What supports that is one of the things that they say about entanglement, which really makes it crazier, is distance, that doesn't matter, or any mass or objects that are in between.
Doesn't
right?
matter.
Yeah, and if that, and this is what we have to take a break, but this is what flies in the face of science. They grasp and they hold, as they should, E equals MC squared. Nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. You will have infinite mass. Time will be at a standstill once you get there, right? Okay.
Right.
So they've just cemented that. I'm going to use the word dogma, right? They've cemented that as fact.
Yes.
Well, if that's the case, then their argument for entanglement, which has basically been proven and tested, entanglement, whatever is happening in between those particles at light years apart, is now, there has to be something traveling.
No, that's what I'm saying. No,
I'm saying
traveling.
No, you are saying that. I'm saying it. They are wrong, is what I'm saying. You can't have that. That communication, because that is traveling faster than the speed of light.
Yes,
it's traveling in the speed of now. Therefore, you can't have your cake and eat it too.
Yes,
and that's my point.
Okay,
that's my point. That's my point.
I get it.
But they repeat themselves with this. That's the other thing. It's like you're smarter than
but
this.
But they know that entanglement exists. So eventually they're going to have to figure that out.
I know. I love that part of it. Daryl, stay right there.
All
Our
right.
guest tonight, Darryl Anka. I am your host, Jimmy Church. This is Fade to Black. It is a full night of what we're calling metaphysical. That's good enough for Daryl and I, and we'll be right back. Daryl, stay right there. This is Fade to Black. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Stay with us. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to get your alerts and access to over 2,000 videos. Click that subscribe button right now. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and get the Fade to Black official podcast. 2,000 episodes, all of them commercial free for just $2 a month. Watch Into the Vortex on Gaia TV. It's Fade to Black for the screen. Simple to do. Go to Gaia.com, search Jimmy Church, or click on the link below. Follow Fade to Black on Twitter at JChurchRadio. Get all of the show updates every single day. It's now called X, but who cares? How you doing? Jimmy Church here. Special announcement. Get your Fade to Black t-shirts. That's right. Help support the show. Help support everything that we do over here. We've got 2 t-shirts. We've got 2 ways to get them. Get your Fade to Black t-shirt today. Go Backley Tappy. Go to jimmychurchradio.com and become a Fadernaut. Get a membership. That's right. Everything is commercial free. You have access to downloads, and you get to call yourself a Fadernaut. Jimmy Church, Gaia TV, Fade to Black, here at Machu Picchu with Brian Forster and Hidden Inca Tours. Amazing tour so far, Brian, but we're here to announce what we're going to do next year in 2026. What's going on?
Okay, November 2026, we're going to have our major tour of Peru and Bolivia, either a pre or post tour of Paracas and Nazca on the coast. And then after that, 6 days in Easter Island.
Bucket list, Easter Island. Come join Brian and I and his amazing team here at Hidden Inca Tours for Peru, Bolivia, and Easter Island. Signing out. Say goodbye, Brian.
Bye, gang.
River Moon Coffee, makers of the Fade to Black blend. Truly the best coffee on planet Earth. Just visit rivermoonwellness.com or their Amazon store. It's all simple to do. You can check out the Fade to Black blend, the Game Changer blend, or any of their Black Moon Wellness products. It's the only coffee I drink. It is the best, and it's Doc. Again, rivermoonwellness.com. All right. Welcome back. Fade to Black. I am your host, Jimmy Church. Tonight, Darryl Anka is with us. Called this show Just Talking Metaphysical. Daryl and I are just having a riff-ridden conversation about everything. And so we're going to continue that. And one of my favorite things to do, Daryl, is to make you laugh. You've got one of the best laughs, man, in the world, man. It's just phenomenal when I'm able to pull that off.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's one of my challenges. Now, I want to take the time to talk about your experience on one side of channeling and Bashar. we don't need to. You can talk about Bashar if you want, but I'm not. That's not where I'm going with this. Where I'm going is your experience. Now everybody wonders what is happening when that goes down. So I want to discuss that a little bit. We were just talking about entanglement. Is that and not to be just so basic about this, but is it entanglement that is allowing channeling to occur?
Kind of. Because what's happening, as I understand it physically, is that my brainwave rate alters, comes somewhere closer to his brain frequency. He alters his to come somewhat closer to mine. When our frequencies match, they lock and start harmonizing. And then information can be transferred over that connection, regardless of distance or anything, because we're operating on a similar wavelength, which allows me to function as a translator for his thoughts because they become my thoughts. And I'm acting kind of as a translation device or a telephone by linking with his vibration. So in a sense, yes, it's kind of similar to the concept and maybe exactly the concept of entanglement, because I think it has to do with vibration and resonance and being on a similar frequency.
When I have the greatest job in the world, I really, now maybe you do, I don't know, we can debate that, but I've got a pretty cool gig, and most people don't understand my position, and I'm going to say our position. But when you and I are standing off the side of the stage, right?
Yeah.
You and I are talking about a good pizza recipe. We're talking about family. We're talking about that's what we're doing over there.
Yeah,
right?
whatever.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'll turn to you and go, "You ready?" And let's do this, Jimmy. Right. And I go out, do the intro. But Daryl, who I was just talking about Claire recipes with, is who walks out on that stage. And the introduction happens. I walk off of the stage. At that moment, when the connection is made, what do you see?
I can see patterns of energy. I can see shapes, symbolic shapes. I can see literal images depending upon what might need to come through or what might represent a conversation about to happen. I feel a lot of his particular mentality, emotionality. I start to see things from his perspective. So it's like the universe just kind of opens up, I guess is the best way to describe it. I experience what I've described as a crashing waterfall of energy coming through. And then it translates into language that would be the spray that you get. But I'm immersed in this flow of energy. So it depends on what the subject is that somebody might ask him as to then what I will see from that point forward. But in the initial opening, it can be just sort of a void that gets filled with colors and shapes, because he perceives a lot of things as patterns of energy. And to him, that pattern is a language that he can translate. So I see some of that. But then it'll depend on what somebody's asking that determines what I might perceive beyond that point. But it's usually very condensed in terms of time. It's very efficient. One symbol can represent many different aspects of a conversation that might take 5 minutes. One example I think that illustrates that the most was something that happened many, many years ago. Somebody was asking something that had to do with electricity, had to do with history, had to do with unlocking things. And the one symbol that came in my head for all of that was Ben Franklin and his kite, because it had to do with all those subjects. It's like the kite attracted the electricity that went down and hit the key on the string that held the kite, and Ben Franklin represented the historical aspect of the question. So it was like I understood that this one image encapsulated this entire conversational answer. And that is how a lot of ETs explain telepathy. You get this compacted image that is holographic in nature, and it contains many meanings, and they jump out at you as you need to understand the context. It's almost similar, because before I started channeling, I actually did become somewhat proficient at reading tarot cards. It's very similar to when you look at the image on a tarot card, and certain parts of the image sort of suddenly stand out. It either gets brighter or it seems to lift off the surface. And that tells you what you're supposed to be looking at and what that symbol represents for what a person is talking about. So it becomes this thing where symbols are highly holographically efficient at representing an entire dialogue in a condensed form. And that's what I experience a lot of. There are times when I can, because he's sort of, behind the wheel, it's like being in a vehicle, but I've slid over to the passenger side. I can think about other things. I can even have a separate conversation with him about something that I want to know about while he's talking to another person. So different things happen at different times, and I experience a lot of weird things in that state.
What happens to Daryl's mind?
Well, it turns into an altered state. I can experience different things. I can feel what he's feeling. I can experience his reality. I can experience, it's like I become.
So Daryl's still there.
Oh yeah. Still there. It's like I become an observer,
right,
not a participant. So yeah, I'm still there. That's what I mean. I can have my own thoughts. I can talk to him separately. So yeah, I'm still very much there, but I am no longer the one that has to pay attention to what's going on.
For you personally, and we've talked about a little bit about this before, but I kind of want to go deeper. When this your first experience, and I remember you were in the audience, and you were at somewhere in the valley at what, the psychic eye, or you were at a bookstore.
Do you mean when the channeling started, or?
Yeah, when it started.
I was in a class. Yeah,
you were in a class.
Yeah,
and was there an interpretation or that had to take place, or an interpolation, a translation of almost like a language? Were you confused at first?
Oh yeah, sure, because I didn't know what was happening to me, because I was having this knowledge, like just sort of downloaded a memory of having made this agreement to do this with Bashar in this life. Before this lifetime, I understood the UFO that I had seen 10 years before that was shown to me on purpose to get me to start moving forward and doing the research I needed to do so that I would get ready to do the channeling, even though I didn't know that's where it was leading me. I saw the image of Bashar's face in my mind. I understood. I heard the word Bashar, thought it was his name. But all this was happening in a split second. And I thought, am I hallucinating as a side effect of the meditations in the class, or what? But like I said, as soon as this happened in my head, in a split second, the entity that was teaching the class stopped talking to the class and turned to me and said, well, there's an entity here for you now if you're ready to begin. And I happened to open my eyes and look behind me, and this woman that was also in the class somehow had picked up on the image of Bashar's face that I saw in my head, and she was actually drawing it on a piece of paper. So I already had two outside validations that this wasn't just my imagination. And that's why I continued with it, to see where it would lead.
What was it like going home that night? Were you thinking, man, I'm batshit crazy, I've lost my mind?
Well, I didn't think that, because by this time I had understood through research and reading, like the Seth material and so on and so forth. I understood generally what channeling's purpose was. And so the bigger consideration was not, am I crazy? Because I already, like I said, I already had validations that something real was happening. I couldn't put my finger on exactly what was going on, but I realized that this was an opportunity to explore something in a deeper way. I didn't really have a comprehension of what I was necessarily supposed to completely do with it or where it would take me. But I was game because I understood from experiencing this other channel for several months that the information could be very, very helpful to people. And it was, I've always had the penchant to simply want to help people if they seem, uncertain or confused or lost or whatever. Even to the point of, if I walk through a mall and I see somebody looking around like they don't know where they are, I'll go up to them as if I'm, one of the people that works in the mall and say, can I help you find something? It's just the way I am. I like to help people. So I knew that that was really the purpose of channeling, was to be of service to people, to help them. And so I thought, all right, I'll pursue this and see where it leads. And, here I am 40 years later.
Before I ask if anyone can channel, I wanted to mention it is San Diego Transcendence Retreat.com. That's the website. Daryl and I are going to be there September 27th and 28th down in San Diego at the Bahia Resort in Mission Bay. That's going to be a lot of fun, but what are you going to speak about there? I mean, for every, it's a Bashar world for so many people. How do you approach a conference like that?
Yeah, I actually, in that case, will not really be channeling Bashar. In a sense, I will be channeling myself. Because what I am learning to do, and what I understand is part of the process of channeling another entity, is to bring more of yourself through as well, and to become your version of them in this life as best as you possibly can. Also, because I know that in a 90-minute session that Bashar usually conducts, it's not enough time necessarily for people to really dig deeply down into his concepts. And so what the thing that I will be doing in San Diego is actually teaching part of a class based on Bashar's principles, one segment of a larger class that I will probably be teaching in 2026 that discusses all of Bashar's concepts, but then gives people literally hours at which to discuss, talk, see examples, illustrations, until they can really go, I get it. Because if they really start digging deep into it, and you use illustrations and examples from life and things like that to illustrate Bashar's points, it's much easier for people to get it and use it and apply it in their lives. So in San Diego, I will be discussing one segment of the larger class, which has to do with what is the soul's journey, both in non-physical and physical reality. What is it that happens? What's the sequence of events of a soul planning a life, going through a life, and then leaving that life, and what happens in all of those phases? That's what I'll be discussing based on Bashar's work, with slides to help illustrate some of the points, again, to make it a little easier to grasp. But that's what I'll be doing in San Diego.
Is channeling... Oh, wait, this is my sick mind at work. I mean, I spend so much time thinking about this, Daryl. I lay awake at night going, okay, how do they get it done? Now, so I picture something like this, the impossible setup. Same civilization, two starships passing each other. They're going in opposite directions, in an analog format, right? Okay, in an analog format. Time dilation be damned, right? But they're passing each other.
Sure.
But they're at a great distance and they're traveling. And the radio wave electromagnetic idea of communication doesn't work then. Because by the time you're phone call gets to them, you guys are now,
Yeah.
right?
Light years away. Yeah.
Right. And the response coming back is going to get to you in a year or two.
Right.
So is channeling the way that they communicate? Is entanglement the communication system of the universe?
Yes. And again, entanglement in this case, like what's happening for the channeling, equals telepathy, as Bashar says. So yeah, it's more probably directly mind to mind. Now, they may have other technological abilities to transmit something instantaneously by, again, using the warp principle in the fabric of space. That could be possible too, but a lot of advanced extraterrestrials are extremely telepathic, and that is probably one of the more common modalities of communication in the universe as well for very advanced beings.
Yeah, I try to drive this principle home to this audience so they can understand. If Daryl and I jump on a starship and we go out to Alpha Centauri, right? And 4.5 light years away, and we get a flat tire, right?
In our spaceship?
Yeah, we're screwed. You can't call AAA. You call AAA. It will be 9 years before we hear AAA say they can't come pick us up.
Right.
People don't understand that concept. They don't. They just think that,
the speed of light is limited in physical space. Yeah.
And so the workaround there, ET has a workaround. They're not traveling 10,000 light years away from their home planet and are waiting 20,000 years for birthday cards.
Yeah, no.
Email.
They have definitely figured out other ways of doing it. And like I said, some of it could be telepathic, some of it could be the manipulation of the fabric of space-time in a way that we don't understand that would allow for instantaneous communication. Again, maybe based on entanglement. We don't know.
Let's stay in the metaphysical a little bit, in the paranormal. What are ghosts?
Ghosts are individuals who are in spirit, who either have died, who have incarnated or not, that have managed in some way, shape, or form, through whatever form of intention, to lower their vibrational rate to allow themselves to be at least partially visible to our senses. So it's like someone who exists, this is a crude analogy, in the ultraviolet range normally, lowering their frequency to suddenly be perceivable in the violet, blue, or green range that we can pick up with our senses. So they are people, they are spirits that have simply manipulated their frequency to make themselves visible to our senses.
In that moment, are we ghosts to them?
No, not necessarily. If they understand what they're looking at is something that has a much lower vibration, a much denser vibration, we would appear as solid to them. They can make themselves, if they lower their vibration enough, make themselves appear solid to us too. But that's temporary for them because that's not their natural state now.
Do we ever temporarily change our vibration and pop up in their dimension?
Astrally, yes, not physically. But astrally, we can expand, and our astral selves, our spirit selves, can certainly visit them, and probably does all the time when we're asleep, especially.
So the spirit potentially, let's call the spirit Bob. Could Bob run to another spirit going, "Shit, I just saw a ghost"?
What are you asking?
Yeah, you know what I mean?
What are you asking? I'm not sure what you're asking.
What I'm suggesting is, I have a twisted mind. What I'm suggesting is,
I learned a long time ago.
If we do that in the astral or whatever,
but Bob is a ghost, so I mean, he is. No,
but if we appear momentarily and change our vibration in the astral or any other sense into their dimension, are they freaking out?
No, because they understand we can do that because we are spirits. They know that. That's our natural state. We're there all the time in some way, shape, or form. That's our natural state. They're just going to say, "Oh, hi, Bob, you're back." It's not going to freak them out because they understand that we are spirits too, and that we can sometimes defocus from the physical and expand back to the spirit level. And they're just going to say, "Hi, Bob."
So
Nice
in
to
their
meet you.
world, it's just Tuesday.
Exactly.
Wow, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Do they ever, are they trapped?
No, no soul is ever trapped. That is a myth.
Why is it because of fear that we jump into that,
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, all those kinds of concepts come from fear and a lack of understanding, a feeling of disconnection because we've forgotten that we are spirits. And so we make up all these stories based on things that we've experienced in physical reality and assume that we can project that into the spirit level. But that's false. Those kinds of things don't exist on the spirit level. You are a completely free soul.
So when we talk about indigenous cultures, it doesn't matter, from around the world, they've all talked about the same things. Spirit orbs, orbs of energies, light. It's been described so many different ways, but
Yeah.
we're probably talking about the same thing. Now we have different words for it, but back then it was what it was.
Yeah.
Is that their experience the same as what we are experiencing today, but we're calling it something else now?
Yeah, maybe, because an orb of light is what your soul is in its natural state if it's not taking on a particular form. That's the soul in its relaxed state. You just become an orb of light. Just like anything in 0G turns into a sphere. There's no gravity anywhere. So the energy of a soul in its natural state is just literally a sphere, an orb of light, of energy.
Why, man, I don't want to sound like I'm repeating myself, but why?
I think you just repeated that.
Yeah, we did, didn't we? In
Yes.
that, it's okay to, in a historical sense, talk about spirits and these things.
Yeah.
But today we want to pin them as evil or demonic or bad things when it's always been around us and it's part of life.
Yes, and it's not to say there may not be lower vibrational beings. Of course, there probably are. But, you know, it's not a lot about what people think they are. There's probably a lot of misunderstanding there. It's probably no different than the idea of looking at someone in physical reality and saying, you know, they're kind of low vibe. You know, they're not quite getting it. They're caught up in their, you know, fear-based beliefs, and they're operating on kind of a lower frequency. It's probably no different than that. There are levels to the spirit realm, and someone can be on a slightly lower vibration for whatever reason, but it's really not about anything that they can do to you. And Bashar has explained the concept of demons as something that is really more of an archetypal projection of our own fears. In other words, there's a collective consciousness, and you could look at that collective consciousness as sort of a energetic clay, and it can take on many forms, and we can impact it with our intention, our beliefs, our emotions. So when we are in great fear, when we are experiencing a lower negative vibration, so to speak, we can project into that consciousness clay a form that represents what it is we're experiencing. We can create the projection and the apparition of a demon to represent what we are experiencing as fear. This is why we have the phrase intuitively, I'm facing my inner demons. That's exactly what you're doing, but you're projecting them outside of yourself into the consciousness clay of the collective, so that you have something that's a reference point. But we have, because of our sense of detachment, we have imbued the idea of those projections as if they are autonomous beings that are attacking us. They're not. There's nothing to them. It is us attacking ourselves. It is our projection of our fears. And when the fears are great enough, it can manifest as something like that in the collective consciousness, because everything in reality is just a mirror. And with enough energy and enough intention and enough fear, you can actually get a reflection and an apparition of something that looks demonic. But again, that's our inner demons projected outward. So I don't think those are actually an autonomous group of beings that we have to deal with. We just have to get clear within ourselves not to go into that level of fear.
Is it almost manifesting out of our own id?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah. And so to exercise, it's like going to the gym, knowing that in advance.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. See, understanding, like Bashar says, understanding how things actually work can actually give you a big leg up in understanding how to deal with it. Because if you do understand that anything that might appear to be a demonic form, a possession, so to speak, all of this kind of stuff is simply us doing things to ourselves in a certain way because of our belief systems, then we already have a leg up, because if we're the ones actually generating it, we can be the ones to stop it with a different understanding, a different belief of how it works. So we're no longer victimized by it. We're no longer subjugated by it. We are in charge, and we can say, all right, what is this a reflection of? What do I have to look at within myself? How do I face my inner demons in order to understand how to deal with this, how to transform it, and how so I don't have to project this outside myself to have this experience? So it's really understanding the physics of it, so to speak, to talk about science again, because everything to Bashar in this context is just physics. It's another expression of physics. It may not be the physics we yet understand, but from his perspective, it's just physics, just energy resonating.
Right.
You know?
Speaking of physics, Stephen Hawking said very famously that we've got to stop telling ET where we are, right? That we are going to invite somebody bad. There's good out there, but we could also say, here we are. And
yeah, I think it's too late for that. Because
just a little bit, right? Yeah,
just a little bit too late for that. And my understanding again is that we don't really have to worry about that. And a lot of things that have been reported negatively in most cases, from what I can tell, are highly exaggerated, again, and amplified and magnified by a person's own fear at what they're experiencing. My understanding is that 99.9% of the ETs we are dealing with are positive, have our best interests at heart. And if there is anything out there that does not have our best interests at heart, they're keeping them at bay, because they have the ability to do that, because they want humanity to evolve and to succeed. So I don't think we're really going to have to face that scenario of the bad invasion that is coming from the negative ETs. That's just all sci-fi.
The perception has been well played by the media and Hollywood with that perspective.
Yeah.
And when you look at something like Three Body Problem, which I enjoy, you're a filmmaker, you know.
Yeah, that was a great series. Yeah,
it was a great series. And what if you want something greenlit in Hollywood, Alien Invasion, man.
Oh,
that's
okay. It can be cathartic. We can use it that way. We can get our fears out on the screen and in the theater, and then walk outside in the sunlight and say, okay, that was just a movie. So, those kinds of things are okay. They can be fun. It'd be like, going to an amusement park and riding the roller coaster. It can be terrifying in the moment you're doing it, but then you're on the ground and you're safe, and it can get something, bubbling in your system. So,
and you go do it again, and you go do it again.
Do it again, yeah. We're, a bunch of fear junkies down here.
Totally. Well, when so that phrase, which was so terrifying, you are bugs, right? Three simple words. Yeah, you are bugs. And should if there was bad intentions out there, you and I wouldn't have this conversation right now. It would already have been over, and we wouldn't have even known that it happened.
No.
That's my take.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, again, I know this is an old cliche at this point, but nevertheless, it bears repeating. And that is, look, if these beings are so advanced and they wanted to take us over, why the hell would they have waited so long? Because they could have easily done it before we had any kind of technology that we could use to fight back. So if they haven't done it over the hundreds, if not thousands of years that UFOs have been reported all over the world, it doesn't seem likely that that's going to happen now. That just makes no sense.
No, and this is a beautiful planet. There's a
Yeah,
lot to like about this planet. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
And
So,
humans are the ones that need to learn more than the ETs.
it's so fascinating. It's so fascinating. Now, staying on this though.
Yeah.
Eventually, we have to leave this planet. The
Yeah.
sun is going to do some very bad things at
Well,
some
that's
point.
yes, billions of years from now. Yes.
It could be soon. We
No.
don't know. We
No.
don't know.
Not that soon. Not that.
Well,
No.
Look, if we go, Daryl, I hear
You're
you.
talking about different kinds of solar activity, like coronal mass ejections and things.
Well, once the hydrogen core burns out and helium takes over,
Well, that's
which
billions
will
of
happen.
years from now.
Well, it could be. Nobody's been to the center of the sun. Nobody
No,
officially
but
knows.
we do understand the science a little bit, and it's not going to be tomorrow by any stretch.
My point is, we're not going to be here forever. People assume that this planet is going to exist forever, and it's simply not.
No, of course not.
We will be doing what ET is doing. We're going to go and look like we are right now. We're looking for exoplanets.
Right.
We're eventually going to blow this popsicle stand.
Yeah.
If the universe is big as it is, and you mentioned this many times, it's a numbers game. There's a lot of life out there. There's a lot. There's an infinite amount of life out there. And a lot of that life had to leave their planets too as well.
Yes.
And it's really that simple, isn't it? We will be what we are making movies about eventually.
Absolutely. Bashar has said as much. In fact, there are actually civilizations that some ETs are kind of treating with a hands-off sort of attitude, because eventually we're going to be trained to go and be those planets' UFOs and make contact. We're going to be trained to make contact with other civilizations. So there are some civilizations that, in a sense, are being set aside for us to be able to learn to do that in the same way that the ETs are doing that with us now.
And so I would argue to those that want to fight this ET issue, it's all the same thing. Evolution's all the same thing. Everything is going to go through its process. So why sit here and argue that ET wouldn't have an interest on Earth, or ET isn't out there, or ET isn't traveling, extraterrestrial civilizations aren't traveling the universe? It's like, no, it's the opposite of that.
Yeah.
It has to be that way, right?
I believe so. Yeah, absolutely. It seems obvious to me, but again, it depends on your paradigm view. It depends on what you think reality is and what you think is possible.
Is 3i Atlas an example of something that we should make ourselves aware and prepared for an eventuality like this? Because it's here now, and it just seems like it's lackadaisical. Whether it's ET or not, it's an interstellar object that we need to be concerned about.
That's the importance of it, is that it's giving us an opportunity, like other interstellar objects have, like Oumuamua and so on and so forth, to start pondering the idea of the reality of contact. So I don't think, as Bashar has explained it, that 3i Atlas is actually an ET thing, but it is something that is giving us an opportunity to prepare for that eventuality, getting us used to the idea. Here's an interstellar object. Take a look at this. Here's another one. Oh, you're surprised it's not coming from within your own solar system. And here's another one. Now, what do you think about this? That you're receiving all these interstellar things, and it's forcing you to think about the idea of things coming into your system from
Bingo.
outside. So I think it's being used that way for that purpose.
What when it pops out, oddly enough, right? This is going to be on Halloween, right? That's pretty bizarre.
We are nothing if not synchronicity.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy when you think of it that way. But we're going to be collecting a lot of data.
Mm-hmm.
We have an opportunity here,
Mm-hmm.
and NASA and ESA and everybody else that's got sensor-ridden stuff in orbit, right? To do the here's the opportunity.
Right.
Do you think we'll be told the truth, no matter what it is, whether it's natural or not, or ET?
I don't know that we will, and to me, it doesn't matter, because I know again that in a couple of years, it's all going to come out. So whatever it is that anyone is hiding at the moment is all going to come out in the wash after open contact. A lot of stuff, people are going to be very surprised at what it is that's been being hidden. And I don't think that humans are completely responsible for doing the hiding. I think ETs have been in some ways calling the agenda as well, because they understand that we are not completely ready yet and they're preparing us. So I think that when it all does kind of finally get introduced, all this stuff will be explained in a way that we can kind of look back and go, yeah, that makes sense. We can see the setup now coming from a mile away, you know.
Is our next step in evolution? Is it consciousness? Is it an understanding of consciousness?
Yeah,
is that so. Where we are?
Think so. And our abilities in expressing more of our consciousness, more of what we are as a soul. With the introduction of extraterrestrials, Bashar has said it's not just about meeting people from other planets. The abilities that they have that we can learn from them to increase our sensory awareness into other realms will not only have us communicating with advanced extraterrestrials, but also give us more ability to actually commune and perceive spirits, because extraterrestrials of a high vibration are operating on a similar wavelength to the spirit realm. So it's going to improve our ability to know that we do go on, that we are spirits, that spirits do exist, because eventually, whether that takes a year, a decade, or whatever amount of time after first contact happens, we will, as a society, start being capable of perceiving spirits all the time at some point. And so that will really open up our understanding of what reality really is, and that we do continue on. Ironically, you know, Bashar is kind of, you know, expressed it this way. He's saying, look, spirit is your natural state. That's your home. You're always there in some way, shape, or form. This is the afterlife. This is the secondary level, physical reality. So when we talk about an afterlife, he says, you know, that's almost funny to them, because you're living the afterlife now. And when you die, you are actually returning to your primary life. That's where you come from. This is a temporary manifestation that you're having within your consciousness. This is the afterlife.
Yeah, we've all got that flip upside down, don't we?
Right, exactly. So to him, the idea is like, you know, our question, oh, is there an afterlife, is kind of comical to him, because you're in the afterlife from his perspective.
Now, let's talk about that for a second. Bashar is funny as shit.
Yes, sometimes.
When he needs to go, right? I mean,
yeah.
And so I get a sense of relief from that, that they understand what humor is.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. Is Bashar laughing at us?
Not at us. He does find certain things that we do humorous, more perhaps ironically humorous,
right?
Laughing at us. He doesn't laugh. He doesn't talk down to us or invalidate us in that sense.
Do you remember what was that movie called? Quest for Fire.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah.
And Ray Dong Chong, right?
Right.
She had the best laugh right? She laughed at anything that, right, that was
that they were
funny to
like
her.
doing.
And
Yeah,
yeah. And that, I kind of think of Bashar in the same way. He's
yeah,
pointing and
sort of.
laughing. He's pointing and laughing.
Yeah, well, like he's, like people have asked him, and he said, watching humans is watching somebody who's 7 feet tall trying to stuff themselves into a 1 foot square box. He said it's like a clown in a clown car. It just doesn't. It's humorous because you're doing something that is pretending to be something that is smaller than you actually are, and they find that funny.
Pointing and laughing. I'm telling you, pointing and laughing at
Yeah,
us.
but they're not
But
making fun of us.
no, but man, Trailer Park Earth is pretty damn funny. I mean, it truly is. To that end, uh, uh, when I hate offending people, but sometimes I just say the wrong thing. Daryl, I just
Don't
say
we
the wrong
all?
thing.
Yeah, don't we all?
But if we look at it in those terms, then that would suggest to me that any advanced extraterrestrial civilization would have to have gone through the basic evolutionary steps that we have here on Earth, which includes comedy, includes theater, it includes music and the arts and religion and geopolitical issues, but they've experienced all of this. So does Bashar have paintings hanging on his ship?
No.
Is art part of their life, or was
It
it part
is.
of the
It
past?
is not paintings, but yes, it is.
But you understand what I'm saying? The
Yes, I
concept.
do. I do.
That.
I do. I don't think all of them have gone through identically the same kinds of things because all of them start in different places, especially Bashar's civilization, which is a hybrid civilization. So while they did have their learning periods, they experienced things a little bit differently, and they kind of had, as an artificially constructed hybrid civilization, in a sense, artificially produced, artificially generated, they kind of had a head start. So they were kind of given a leg up to start with. So they didn't necessarily go through all of the machinations that humans on Earth may have gone through over time, but they definitely went through their own versions of certain things. But they do have art, they do have music. It's different than ours. At this point, Bashar himself has said that on occasion he functions as a sculptor, but he sculpts out of really exotic materials as far as we're concerned. So yeah, they definitely have versions of that idea. I don't think they've necessarily gone through identical phases of evolution that we have, but their own versions of it probably, yes.
We have a concept here that we can't get rid of, and it's always there. It's always in the background, which is we as humans always want somebody to come in and fix our problems and help us. And it certainly applies to ET and that concept that we need ET's help. And no, we don't. But Bashar understands that fault that we have.
He does. He's willing to give us information that we can use to help ourselves, but they're definitely not going to do it for us. That would be interfering in our evolutionary path.
And why can't we get rid of that? Why do we always need somebody to come in and rescue us instead of is it because that's the easy way out is to get help and the hard way is to do it yourself?
Well, it's not saying we can't get help. That's fine. But having somebody do all of our challenges for us and remove all our obstacles for us is not getting help. That's making us weak. It's giving us no challenges. It's helping us not grow. So they're not going to go that far. There are a couple of exceptions to that. If what we're doing is going to harm more than ourselves, it might leak out into the universe in a certain way. They will not allow that. They have said now for a couple of decades already, at least, that they will not allow a global nuclear war on Earth because it will literally tear into other dimensions with that much release of energy. And since it won't stay in our backyard alone and will affect a lot of other life that has nothing to do with Earth, they will not allow that. So there are a few exceptions, and I think that's been demonstrated very clearly by UFOs that have been hovering over missile silo bases and scrambling all the launch codes. And that's happened more than once in more than one location. So I think humans may have gotten the message, at least some of them, that we will not allow you to launch those missiles in a nuclear war. So we don't have to worry about that. They're going to step in and stop that, and already, in a sense, have. They do other things to some degree, because, again, they do want humanity to evolve. One of the recent things I've understood that they did is that huge earthquake that happened over in Russia, the 8.8.
Mm-hmm.
There was a big prediction and a lot of warnings of tsunamis that never actually happened. They mitigated that. They mitigated the effect of the tsunami so it wouldn't be as devastating. So there are certain things they will do to help, but it's based on what we've chosen in our life path that would allow them to step in and do certain things that give us an opportunity to move forward. So this is the timing in our history when they can be a little bit more involved. But again, our personal challenges, our understanding of what we need to transform and overcome in order to grow as souls, they're not going to intervene with the things that are critical to our growth.
Will the physical appearance of Bashar scare us?
Well, I hope not. I kind of think he's cute. But, I mean, and again, we've been exposed to so many versions of ETs, like from Close Encounters and things like that, that we're kind of getting used to that a little bit.
Well, you got Predator, you got Alien.
Yeah, but those are the ones that aren't going to show up.
But you could still be nice and look like Predator.
Oh, yes, you can, but I don't think that in open contact they're going to expose us to the beings that are so different from us that we would freak out at first. I think we have to.
Question: Do we see a representative of who they are? You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, they can project whatever, but I think that the way that they understand open contact would be done to our benefit is first we'll introduce you to the beings that are similar enough to you that you would just think of them as no different than another race of beings, another race of humans.
Mm-hmm.
They'll look different, but they won't be so different that you're going to freak out. Then over time, okay, now maybe we'll introduce the ones that are more insectoid, and now maybe we'll introduce the ones that are more reptilian, and now we'll introduce ones that are like you've never even imagined before. And by then we'll be like, okay, obviously these are nice beings. We don't have to worry. But, it may take getting used to it a little bit if they're really that different. But I think they'll do that slowly over time so that we can acclimate.
Arthur C. Clarke did it so well, didn't he, in Childhood's End?
Right.
Right.
We're going to wait a while because
we're going to wait. We're behind the glass, right?
Yeah.
We're behind.
Because you're going to freak out because of what you have already imagined us as being. Yeah.
I often thought that you can look at China, you can look at Asia, you can look at Central America and South America, serpents and dragons and these images. That is it possible? Because dinosaurs weren't discovered yet, for a long time.
No.
But yet these things, pterodactyl-like, demon-like, these images of dragons are in every culture. They're on every flag of every country, right? It's pretty
that's a different thing. That's a big subject. I'm not sure we should actually broach it right now because that's a very complex and deep subject that might take longer than we have to talk about. So maybe we can say that for another time.
Well, we can. And so in a basic way, we'll close it out because we just have a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
Is it possible that those ancient cultures, right, with no transoceanic contact of each other, were seeing
the same thing?
extraterrestrial? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I wholeheartedly believe that that's the case. Not that everything is extraterrestrial, but I do believe every single culture on Earth has been exposed to a certain bunch of extraterrestrials that have interacted with us for thousands of years. And there's a lot of representations of that in symbolic and literal form in many different cultures around the planet. Absolutely.
One last question, and this applies to anybody that has seen something in the sky. I have had some pretty extraordinary sightings. And one of them involved a friend of ours. We don't need to go there, but where we were with a group of friends in the middle of the day, saw something extraordinary, very large in the middle of the day, 400 feet tall, just crazy thing right in front of us. And it phased out and disappeared. But does that involve Bashar? Do you think that was another extraterrestrial civilization? But the more fundamental question is Bashar aware of what we saw and what visits this planet?
What shape was it?
Shaped like a beer can, vertical, like this.
Oh, okay.
400 feet tall, 200 feet wide. Black.
Okay. Possibly,
middle of the day. Middle of the day.
Probably a Pleiadian mothership. Most likely at this point.
Is Bashar aware of that kind of visitation?
Absolutely.
And if that ship, well, no, it did appear, but because it appeared, then it had good intentions.
Yes, and they're also taking stock of how many people are able to perceive us and what is their reaction in perceiving us. Because again, that lets them understand how ready are those people who are seeing us for contact. How ready are they for that?
Right.
And that's one thing that's going to, I think that's one thing that's going to happen more in 2026 is we will finally have enough UFO sightings captured on film by the news media that's going to be ultimately undeniable before open contact occurs.
Yeah. And all of those thoughts passed through my head. And here's the craziest part of the entire experience is that it was so big in the middle of the day and nobody else saw it.
Well, that's what happened when my sighting happened. It's like nobody else was seeing it. But we've heard this over and over again that only when you're in a certain frequency, or the ETs can actually adjust the frequency so that it is literally only visible by people on a similar wavelength, and others will not see it.
Daryl, thank you, man. Thank you for being a friend. Thank you for your contributions to this community and everything else, man.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having these kinds of outlets where we can talk about these things. I think that these kinds of opportunities are one of the reasons why I know things are changing, is because 20 years ago, this wouldn't have existed. This conversation wouldn't have been possible.
We're going to be breaking bread once again, man. September 27th and 28th down in San Diego.
Yeah.
We've got it up right here, San Diego Transcendence Retreat.com. It's up in the chat. We've got it over on our website, and we've got it in the description box below. We've got a promo code there, Fade to Black 10. And come and hang out with Daryl and I. We're going to do a dinner cruise, man. We got a DJ. We're going to dance. We're going to eat. It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be great.
Yeah, come on down to San Diego. Say hi.
I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Daryl, thank you. So, the next time, man, we're out of time. I want to discuss escape rooms with you. And there's a reason. Check this out. One of my favorite shows. I binged it so many times, all of it. Brooklyn Nine-Nine. All right? I love that series. But there's an escape room episode.
Yeah.
It is phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Well, anyway, I saw it last night again for like the 10th time. And we just need to discuss that. Let's talk escape rooms next time you're on the show. Daryl, thank you so much, my friend. Be well. I'll see you in a couple of weeks.
All right. Thanks, Jimmy. Have a good night.
The very best. Darryl Anka, everybody. Again, the links are up. San Diego Transcendence Retreat.com. Promo code is Fade to Black 10. We've got the posters and everything else up in social media, and you can see everybody that is going to be there. Ann Tucker's going to be there. Sarah Breskman Cosme. Mark Anthony's going to be there. Alan Seinfeld, Riz Burke is going to be there, and Dahlia Burgoyne is going to be there. It's going to be so much fun. So I'll see everybody there in San Diego in it's September 27th. So in just about a month. And there you go. So that's it for now. All I've got is Gobekli Tepe. I'll see everybody tomorrow night. Fade to Black is produced by Hilton J. Palm, Renee Newman, and Michelle Freed. Special thanks to Bill, John, Dex, Jessica, Dennis, and Kevin. Webmaster is Drew the Geek. Music by Doug Aldrich. Intro, Space Boy. Fade to Black is produced by KJCR for the Game Changer Network. This broadcast is owned and copyrighted 2024 by Fade to Black and the Game Changer Network, Inc. It cannot be rebroadcast, downloaded, copied, or used anywhere in the known universe without written permission from Fade to Black or the Game Changer Network. I'm your host, Jimmy Church. Gobekli Tepe.